everybody, this is Mr. Green. Once again, I'm not here, I'm not able to be at school today, so I have left this video in my place. Today we are in Chapter 2, Lesson 2, and we're talking about solving two-step equations. We are building on what we talked about yesterday in solving equations with rational coefficients. So today we're going to talk about a vocabulary startup. It says, recall that in mathematics, properties are statements that are true for any number. That means no matter what numbers you plug in to those properties or those statements, it will always be true. So the big ones that are really going to help us solve equations are our properties of equality, and there's one for each operation. The main thing with the properties of equality is that no matter what operation you do, you have to do the same thing to both sides of the equal sign. As long as you do that, the equality or the equal sign will remain true. Okay, the equality of the equation remains true. So for example, our addition property of equality, okay, says that if we add the same number to both sides of an equation, it is still equal. So if we go down here to the bottom, okay, we see x minus 5 is equal to 6, and they add 5 to both sides, so that would be an example of the addition property of equality. Division property of equality, that means if you divide both sides by the same number, okay, the equation is still true, or the equality of the equation has not changed, and we see that here when they divide both sides of the equation by 3. The multiplication property of equality says we can multiply both sides of the equation by the same number and the equality will not change. That is our top one here when we multiply by 2. Okay, and lastly, our subtraction property of equality says, you guessed it, you can subtract the same number from both sides of the equal sign, and your equation will still be equal. Okay, the main thing we have to remember is that when we're solving equations, whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other side. And when I say that, I'm talking about the equal sign. Okay, the equal sign is the divider in the middle of the equation. Okay, so whatever happens on the left side of the equal sign must happen on the right. So here, a two-step equation contains two operations. In the equation 2x plus 3 equals 7, x is multiplied by 2, and then 3 is added. So in order to solve a two-step equation, we must undo each operation in reverse order. Remember, we want to get x by itself. Okay, we want to get x by itself. So we're going to use PEMDAS except in reverse. Okay. So if we take a look at example number 1 here, it says solve 2x plus 3 equals 7. Now in PEMDAS, we would multiply and divide first, and then add and subtract. Well, we're going in reverse order, so we need to get rid of our addition and subtraction first. Okay. Now I have a 2x plus 3, so our inverse operation of addition is subtraction. So I want to subtract 3 from the left side of the equal sign and the right side of the equal sign. Okay, I'm going to draw this line and make it a big subtraction problem. 3 plus a negative 3 equals 0, so the 2x comes down. Transfer my equal sign down. Okay, 7 minus 3 is 4. So now I have the equation 2x is equal to 4. Okay, I need to take another step further to solve because x is not by itself. So now I have 2 times x is equal to 4. The inverse operation of multiplication is division. So I will divide both sides by 2. 2 over 2 is 1. So this is x is equal to 4 divided by 2, which is 2. If I want to check my answer to see if it is correct, I'll plug it back in to the original. Okay, so instead of x, I'll put 2. 2 times 2 plus 3 is equal to 7. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. And last time I checked, 7 does equal 7. So I know I have the right answer. Okay, I will not require you to check your work, but you need to know how to do it. Okay. So at this point, go ahead and pause the video and try A and B on your own. And now you should be back from trying A and B. Let's go through the answers quickly. So here 3x plus 2 is equal to 20. In order to get rid of a plus 2, I need to subtract 2. Not from one side of the equal sign, but both. I end up at 3x is equal to 18. Okay, to get rid of the 3, I need to divide by 3 on both sides. Okay, and I end up at x is equal to 6. Okay, if I wanted to check it, I could plug it back in. Over here, B is a little bit trickier this time. It's not in the correct order. So here, some students have trouble knowing what to do with the 5. Well, this is a positive 5. So how do you get a positive 5 to turn to 0? Well, we subtract 5. Okay, and whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. Okay, that equals 0. I'm left with 2n is equal. Now I have negative 1 minus 5 more is negative 6. Divide by 2. N is equal to negative 3. Moving on to example number 2. Now, this one has a rational coefficient. Now, we talked about these yesterday. It shouldn't be a huge problem for us, except now we have one more step. Before I can get rid of the coefficient on the end, I need to get rid of this minus 3. The inverse operation of subtraction is addition. So in order to get rid of that negative 3 or that minus 3, I need to add 3, not only to one side of the equation, but to both. These cancel. 25 plus 3 is 28, is equal to 1/4 n. Now, in order to get rid of a rational coefficient, we need to multiply by the reciprocal. Well, the reciprocal of 1/4 is 4/1, which is the exact same as 4. So I multiply by 4, that cancels. But whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other. So I multiply by 4 over here. Okay? And if I take 28 and multiply it by 4, I get 112. 112 is equal to n. And again, if I wanted to check my answer, I would plug it back in. Okay, go ahead and try C and D on your own, and I will be back to explain those to you in a minute. All right, you should be back from trying C and D. So here, C, step 1, we need to get rid of the plus 9, so I subtract 9 on both sides. Okay. Negative 1 minus 9 gives me a negative 10 is equal to 1/2 a. Multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1/2 is 2/1 or 2. Okay. 2 times negative 10 is negative 20 is equal to a. Okay. Those cancel. D, if we take a look at D, 2/5 r minus 5 is equal to 7. The first thing I need to do is add 5 to both sides. Because addition is the inverse operation of subtraction. So that undoes, addition undoes subtraction. These cancel. I'm left with 2/5 r is equal to 12. Okay? So in order to get rid of the 2/5 on the r, I need to multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 2/5 is 5/2 or 5/2. And whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other. Okay, these cancel. I'm left with r is equal to, if I can cross reduce, 2 turns to 1, this turns to 6. 6 times 5 is 30. And that's how you do C and D. Moving on, they make it a little bit more complicated yet again here. If I have the equation 6 minus 3x is equal to 21, again, I need to get rid of the 6 first. So again, it can be a little bit confusing. How do you get rid of a 6? There's no sign in front of it, but it's a positive 6. So in order to get that to be 0, we must subtract 6. And whatever I do on one side of the equal sign, I must do on the other. Okay, so this cancels. Now, this is a minus 3x, so I'm left with a negative 3x. Okay, that minus sign means it's negative. If it helps you, you can add the opposite, plus a negative 3. That way you know that's a negative 3x. Okay? Over here, 21 minus 6 is 15. Now, I can't just divide by a positive 3 here, because I don't have positive 3 times x. I have negative 3 times x. So in order to get rid of that negative 3, I need to divide by a negative 3. Those cancel. Now I have a positive divided by a negative. My answer is always negative, so this should be negative 5. Go ahead and try E, F, and G on your own, and I'll be back in a minute to show you how to do them. All right, we should be back from trying E, F, and G. Start with E. Again, this 10 is positive. In order to get rid of it, I have to subtract 10. Okay, whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I must do to the other. Okay, this equals 0. I'm left with a negative 2/3 P is equal to 42. Okay. The reciprocal of a negative 2/3 is a negative 3/2. Okay, negative 3/2. I multiply by that on both sides. Cancel, cancel. P is equal to, on this side, if I can cross reduce, this 2 turns to a 1. 42 divided by 2 is 21. 21 times a negative 3, negative 63. And again, if you'd like to check your answer, plug it back into the original equation and simplify. If we take a look at F, here I need to get rid of this plus 2 before I can get x by itself. So in order to get rid of a plus 2, I subtract 2. Okay, these cancel. Negative 19 minus 2 more becomes a negative 21. Okay, and I need to divide by a negative 3x here because that's what I have multiplied by my x. Divide both sides by negative 3, and I end up at x is equal to, negative divided by a negative is a positive, so that is 7. X equals 7. And lastly, down here, G, this is a tricky one, okay, because of the way they write this. Okay, so I have n over a negative 3 minus 2 is equal to negative 18. I need to get rid of this minus 2 first, so I add 2 to both sides. N over negative 3 is equal to negative 16, because negative 18 plus 2 is negative 16. So here, this fraction bar acts like division. Okay, this is n divided by a negative 3. So the inverse operation to division is multiplication, and I multiply by a negative 3. So I multiply by a negative 3. Okay, so on the left side here, our 3's cancel, and n will equal negative times a negative is a positive, so it is just 16 times 3, which is 48. 48, a positive 48. Okay. Positive 48. So those are E, F, and G. Finally, our last example here is a word problem. It says Chicago's lowest recorded temperature in degrees Fahrenheit is negative 27 degrees. Solve the equation negative 27 is equal to 1.8 C plus 32 to convert to degrees Celsius. So we want to convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Here is the equation. All we need to do in this one is solve it. Okay? I know that because it says solve the equation. If I give you a problem like this on your test or quiz, please, please, please read the problem so I don't have to you don't have to bring your paper up and I underline where it says solve the equation. Okay, so I have negative 27 is equal to 1.8 C plus 32. The first thing I need to do is subtract 32 from both sides. Okay, these cancel. I have a negative 27 minus 32 more is a negative 59. Okay, so now all I have to do is divide by 1.8. And a negative 59 divided by 1.8 looks like it is 32.7 repeating. Negative 32.7 repeating. Okay, and remember our label should be in degrees Celsius. So let me rewrite it. Degrees Celsius. Okay, degrees Celsius. Alright, so those word problems, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Do what it says. Solve the equation. There's the equation. Solve it. Not too much there. Alright, then here is your assignment. Let me take the filter off. It might be a little easier to see. Here's the assignment. We're on page 125. Red, yellow, green. The choice is yours. Pick one that will challenge you. Okay, pick the one that's most appropriate for you. If you've been doing well, do the green. If you've been doing okay, do the yellow. And if you've been struggling, do the red. Okay, you need to show your work on this assignment. Okay, I will not give you credit if you do not show your work. We are solving equations. You have to show all of your work line by line. It is required. Thanks, and have a great day.